Everybody, it's Jason Creel, and this is the Lawn Care Life. Today I'm on the road. I'm in Douglasville, Georgia with the guys at Graham Spray Equipment, and we're gonna do several videos, but in this one, I'm with Donny Pitts, and Donny's the general manager here, and he's gonna show us some of the rigs that they have, but he's also gonna talk about the maintenance that we're gonna use, common maintenance practices, some parts to keep on hand for your spray rig, how to winterize your spray rig. So Donny's been working here since he's about 10 years old, and he knows everything there is to know about spray rigs. So we're going to talk to him and learn how to properly maintain a spray rig. First of all, what do you call this one? Because this is, I'll just be honest, a little bit.
Enclosure unit.
Okay.
And what we mean by enclosure, we don't put a roof in it, we just put walls on it, and the walls are for you to advertise with.
Okay.
So when you close the doors, you put your wrap on here, and everything's on here for everybody to see.
A rolling billboard, basically.
That's all it is rolling billboard. It's more to hide everything than it is to protect anything.
Okay. So y'all have like another unit where you put a roof on it to protect it in that way?
No, we don't like putting roofs on it because people don't ever clean them out. If we don't put a roof on it, at least God will clean it out when it rains. The biggest thing with keeping these things running and keeping them right is rinsing them off. Just rinse the thing off every day. That's going to save the life of the unit. You'll be surprised how much longer it'll last you.
All right, so that alludes to my first question. But first, let me just get just a walk around real quick just to see what we're looking at, and I'll do that. And so you see here, they got a rack on the back of these that some of these come with. It's like a ride-on spreader sprayer. You put that back here, and of course, you got storage over here. Some of them, they put dry storage on, but and of course, it's a Isuzu NPR cab. All right, so you're telling me that blowing it off, or when you say in the maintenance, that's what I want to ask you first about, just kind of common maintenance things to take care of the units, because I know y'all build them to last, but what are some of the common maintenance things you say? When you say, is it better to rinse it off with water, or can you blow it off with a blower, or is it not good to use water because of the corrosive nature of fertilizer, or what do you think?
Well, you could use either one. The biggest thing that we see is a lot of people come in and they got fertilizer piled on the bed, leaks out of the bags, and then it just sits there on the bed and eats it up. Or it falls down on the truck frame and eats the truck frame up. So if you got a blower that'll get it off, blow it. I'd like for you to rinse it off and get a lot of that residue off, and it'll save the life of the frame of the truck too. We build these things to last. We build, most of our trucks are aluminum, but aluminum will corrode and it will deteriorate just like steel or anything else.
So what about just some common maintenance things to do as far as, I mean, I know most of them have like a little small Honda engine that runs it, and you got your hose and things like that, but what are some of the common maintenance things to keep your rig running right?
One of the biggest things is you have grease fittings. If you have mechanical agitation, you have a grease fitting on your bearing, and this unit doesn't really have one, but your bearing is usually coming out of the back of the tank. Grease it one shot once a week. You have grease fittings on your reels, on your swivels, and keep those greased. Now, when they're brand new, it will not take grease. It'll start taking grease when it starts leaking. So when it leaks, put a shot of grease in there.
Okay. All right, when you said mechanical agitation, explain the difference in that. What's mechanical agitation versus jet agitation?
Okay, our mechanical agitation means that we have a brass bearing holding a stainless steel shaft that's going through the tank. And on that shaft, we have paddles. As long as your engine's running, you're going to be agitating. It's going to be turning those paddles in the tank, and it's good for any kind of powders or anything that you're going to use inside there. Jet agitation, the way we do our jet agitation is full time, but we're using the return on the pump. Every pump we use is a positive displacement pump. That means if the pump's turning, liquid's got to go somewhere. So if your gun is off, it's all going back in the tank, recirculating, churning everything up inside the tank. When your gun is on, you're not spraying 8 or 10 gallons a minute out of your gun, so the rest of it's going back in the tank and agitating as you're spraying also. You don't have to cut your agitation on and off with our rigs.
That makes sense. All right, we moved over to a different rig, and I'm gonna ask Donnie about winterizing the unit, because I know that's always been a concern of mine. If you've got a place indoors to park it and you can keep it above freezing, do you have to winterize it if you or maybe you live in South Florida or something like that? Do those people worry about winterize, or just for those of us who sometimes have to leave the rig outside in freezing weather?
Well, if you're north of Orlando, you need to winterize. Anybody in South Florida, you probably don't have to winterize. But if you're going to continue to use your rig every day, the best thing for you to do would be to put it in a heated space overnight. If you cannot put it in a heated space, the safest thing for you to do would be to keep tanks empty overnight, and then we'll go over the procedure once you empty your tank.
Donnie, show me how to actually winterize a rig, because I know this is something I actually watched one of your videos in the past. I was like, I've got to winterize my rig. It's out in the weather, and I get nervous about my pumps freezing, and then you get parts tearing up because I didn't properly winterize. So go over on this. If when you're winterizing it, basically help me understand what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to get all the water out of parts that might freeze and break. Is that the idea?
Right. And that's all we're going to do. We're not going to keep stuff from freezing. We're just going to keep it from freezing and busting.
Okay.
That's what we don't want to happen.
Okay, so show me how we do that on this particular rig.
Okay, on this one we have the high pro strainer. This is your strainer cap. I want you to pull this strainer cap off, and we have a valve here that you can turn off or on. If your tanks are empty, you leave this valve on, take your strainer cap off, and leave it off. Right here is your regulator. And this is a AR regulator. It has two valves. One's going to a reel and one's just a dump valve. So you pull this off, open these valves, flip this handle up in this position, and then you'll come back over here to the reel, whichever reel this is operating, and you'll pull the nozzle off. A lot of people say, man, that nozzle's got all these holes in it. Well, what happens when it's a hard freeze, these holes will glaze over, ice will form behind it, and pop the end of that nozzle out. So take your nozzle off, open your gun, and leave it open.
So lock the trigger in
Lock
place.
the trigger. I don't want to do it on this one because it's going to shoot us.
I got you. I don't want you to do it either.
All right. And then this, come over here and just crank your engine and just let it run till you'll see stuff stops coming out of your regulator and you're good.
And that takes about five seconds or so of letting it run.
It doesn't take long at all.
I've done that on mine. It kind of drizzles some water out.
And
then
like I say, we're not getting all the water out. We're just getting it where it's not going to bust anything.
Makes sense. All right, Donnie, what do you recommend as far as parts to keep on hand? You know, if you're out there, like for me, I know occasionally I've had, and it'd be something as small as the little button on my hose reel that goes out, and you're like, man, if I don't have a button, I'm gonna have to manually reel this hose in, which I don't want to do, and it can shut you down for a day if you're not prepared. So what's some kind of common parts that you recommend keeping on hand?
That's a very good one first, will be that button, because like you say, if your button goes out, you're rolling 400 or 300 feet up by hand.
And by buttons, it's just these little here, how do you pronounce the name of these reels?
These are Hannay reels.
Hannay reels, and you got this little button. It's probably a $10 part or less sometimes, and if it goes out, you're going to be manually trying to roll this thing up just to get off that 1 yard.
Another thing that I would keep on hand would be a hose splice for whatever side. If you got 3/8 hose or 1/2 inch hose on your reel, I would have at least one splice kit, which we sell on your truck all the time. That's just in case something happens out in the yard, a hose busts, somebody runs over your hose, you got a way to fix it.
Let me ask you this on that. You brought up another point, but if it happened to bust while you're on the yard and you got stuff leaking in the yard that shouldn't be, what do you do in that situation?
We try to make it easy for you. You run back to the truck and you can cut it off right here at the reel. Okay, you don't have to look for your engine and all that. You just cut it off right here and it'll stop the flow.
Gotcha. What other parts should we keep on hand?
You might want to keep a swivel because they're bad about leaking. If you don't have, I would also keep a grease gun on my truck too, just in case.
Is that stuff that a normal person can change those parts out without a lot of expertise?
Yeah, a pair of channel locks and an adjustable wrench, you can change these out. And of course, you can call me anytime on the phone and I can walk you right through all of it.
But I know one thing that I kept on hand is I'll have a spare belt in mine that has the mechanical agitation. You know, I've got the belts that you can get at the auto parts store or something like that, and you have one of those that keep on hand. Sometimes they get stretched out, and I can adjust the pulleys and make them tighter, but after a while they start getting cracks in them, and I think, you know, last thing I want is that thing to break on me without having one stuck behind the seat of my truck.
Yes, you need to have a belt, and if you buy a Graham rig, you get an owner's manual, and in that owner's manual is your belt sleeves, so it'll tell you what size belts that you have on your unit. As long as you keep those sleeves, you can go to any Napa or any auto parts place and get a belt to fit your truck.
Yeah.
I would keep, if you have mechanical agitation, then you're going to have 2 belts at least. I'll keep at least 1 belt for each one on the truck at all times.
Yeah, I've got the 3-ring binder they give you when you buy your rig. They put all the information. It has those belt sleeves. I keep that behind my truck, and every once in a while I have to look back at it and make sure. I know when I first got my rig, I was having to look at it to figure out which way to flip the valves to make water come out of the split rig. I was like, well, which way do I flip these to come out of the small, you know? I've got it memorized now.
Yep,
so
that's why we did that.
That's right.
A lot of owners, a lot of times will take those books out of the truck. So the operator, he's out there and he don't know what he's got. So we would like you to keep them in the truck for the operator.
So let me ask you this. So as far as, you know, even though I believe you guys build great rigs and that's what I have for my own business, but as far as troubleshooting, occasionally if I get out in the field, what advice you give people other than just do what I do and call you on your phone? I don't want people doing that, but you know, if let's say they just crank the Honda engine and water's not coming out, or it's just something's not acting right, is there some kind of basic troubleshooting tips you can give before they pick up the phone and call you?
Well, the first thing that I'm going to ask you if you call me is to check the flow. Okay, and what that means is you're going to turn your engine off, you're going to cut that valve off by your strainer, take your strainer cap off, put a bucket under there, and then I'm going to tell you to open that valve and see if we got good flow. If we got good flow coming out of the tank, then we know we're not clogged up, and it's going to be a pump or a regulator issue. The way that you figure out if it's a pump or a regulator is the easiest way that I can tell you to check it is to look at your return, whether you have jet or your return's going in the top of the tank. If you're not getting any return, then your pump's not working. If you're getting good return and nothing out of the gun, 9 times out of 10 it's going to be your regulator.
It's not that complicated. You just got to kind of understand where the issue lies and then figure out how to fix it from there.
No, it is not rocket science.
Well, I know this from being a Graham customer. I have had to call Donny a couple times, and he's patient walking me through things and helping me. Always been able to get me back up and running. It's usually something simple where my rig might have sat up over the winter, and then I get ready to use it in January, and it's, you know, and I have to kind of get something loosened up where probably didn't follow the maintenance procedures exactly like I should have. I was just thinking about this in maintenance too, cleaning out the strainer. You know, that's something that I think is important, because I know sometimes I'll take mine off and I kind of got lazy with it, and it looks like it's you know, needs rinsed off once or twice to get it back running properly.
No doubt, that's a good one.
We got a different rig here where I can show the shaft that runs through the tank. This is a pickup unit, and this we were talking about just common maintenance things. And this one, you said put 1 shot of grease in this once a month, and then on the other side, like I said, this is a pickup unit, more like I have it on my truck. The other side, you got that one that needs a shot once a week. And that, Donnie, correct me if I'm wrong, that basically keeps this seal from leaking over time.
Well, it keeps it from leaking here.
Okay, I got you. We talked about cleaning out the strainer. You know, that's this this part here, you take this cap off, and sometimes if you're spraying pre-emergent or something like that, this will tend to get clogged up, and you want to keep that as clean as possible. Appreciate Donnie being with us. Donnie is an expert on these spray rigs, and he's able to give us some good maintenance tips and learn how to keep your rig up and running for a long time. Appreciate you watching. I'm Jason Creel. If you're interested in talking to the guys at Graham about getting a spray rig for your business, you can go to grahamsc.com. I'll put a link in the description of the video, and appreciate them letting me be here filming their rigs and talking to them. These guys take care of you. Like I said, they truly run a family type business where you get to know you on a first name basis. I've sent a lot of my friends over here, and they come back telling me what a great experience they have. Thanks a lot. Talk to you guys later. Bye.